Alright, it's time to talk about Little Women. Hello everybody and welcome back to Teacups and Toadstools. I'm very excited for today's video because I am finally going to talk about the new Little Women movie in full detail and all of my thoughts and all of my opinions about it. If you have not seen the movie yet, I would definitely recommend shutting this video off because even though this is an old story and a lot of the story elements are the same in this film as they are in the book, watch the film first because this definitely spoils a lot of what this film decided to focus on in its adaptation of the story. Today, I have my cat mom mug right here, and this is funny because I have never owned a cat. Ever one time have I owned a cat. I just got it in high school because I wanted a cat, and so I thought I would speak this into existence with this mug. So there's the cat mom mug. Alright, so just a little bit of my background with this novel before I kind of get into talking about all of this stuff because I think it's important to know the perspective I'm coming from here. So I had only read the book up until, I want to say 5 years ago. I had reread the first part of the book so many times it was silly, and I only read the second part when I got a little bit older. I think I was maybe 15 years old when I read the second part of the novel, and I've read that part, the second part, a couple of times. And so I definitely, with this work, am very married to the ideas that are presented in the book. As far as movies go, I've seen the 1930s Katharine Hepburn version. It's been a while. I remember seeing it once. And then I've seen the Winona Ryder version. I don't think I've seen that one all the way through. But anyway, so I'm talking about this from very much a book perspective, not from a past movies perspective, because yeah, that's what I'm more familiar with. So when it comes to adapting old works or books to the screen, I think the main question we need to ask ourselves is why this art and why this movie is being made now of all times. You know, there have been 3 major film productions of this book that have been made in the past, so why are we making it again? Why are we bringing this to a new generation? And you know, a lot of old books and movies, you know, they make new versions of it, but it just kind of doesn't say anything new about the work. It's just a copy of the story and that's it, and they expect that because it's a popular book it'll still sell. But I think that this film, what I really appreciated about it is that it tried something new with the story that we love, and it had a conversation with a modern audience about this old story and what that meant for gender during this time period, and I think that they did a really good job of making it something that is still relevant and not just copying the story over again. Alright, so let's talk first about Meg. Meg's arc in past film adaptations and the musical adaptation is very boring. She often is the sister that just gets pushed to the side and doesn't have a lot going on, and I'm not sure if that's like a writing issue or an actress issue, but I think it's more of a writing issue, and they chose to focus more on Jo's arc rather than any of the other sisters. So in the novel, Meg goes through a whole character arc about, you know, vanity and getting over wanting pretty things when she can't have a lot because their family doesn't have a lot of money. And this film adaptation definitely focused on that as a plot point, which I absolutely loved. I was so thankful that Meg was not the boring sister. I was walking in and I was like, if Meg is boring in this version, I will be so sad. So they definitely did not skimp on Meg, and they focused a lot on her relationship with John, which I really, really loved a lot. I think that it was cute, and it made more sense to me now why, you know, in addition to the novel, like, they end up together, because it's kind of everything that she thought that she wouldn't want to marry is in him, because he's very poor and he doesn't make a lot of money, and she thought and kind of wanted to marry someone who had nice things and could provide those things for her. Kind of nice to view Meg in a different way than I had in the past in other film adaptations, and it was refreshing that they focused more on Meg's character from the book. So something that this movie did very interestingly is it focused a lot on the dichotomy of Jo and Amy as characters, and them both being very powerful women in their own right. So we have Jo, who finds her power through going against what society expects of her and trying to make her way in the world on her own and finding power in that right, whereas Amy finds her power in kind of steering into what society wants from her, but she knows that that's the only way that she can be powerful, which I thought was a very interesting discussion to have, especially at the time that this movie is being made, where women now can make their own way in the world, but definitely can find an easier time still in maybe following the path that Amy did. And I remember I was having a discussion with one of my friends about this film, and we had a neat conversation about how when the book was released, a lot of girls probably liked the path that Amy followed better than the path that Jo followed, because Amy was sort of the model girl of that time period, whereas Jo was not, and how that's changed with modern day interpretations, and how Jo has become the center of the story because she is the feminist, don't need a man girl, which is great. I love Jo, always love Jo March, but just an interesting conversation to have, and I'd be curious what you guys' thoughts are on that, so leave them down below. So another thing I really loved about the way that this movie was done was the way that they did the time structure. So it started when Jo's in New York, and it bounces from that, which is present day, that timeline in New York, on, and then the past. And I think that this did a really good job of framing the way that Jo kind of mourns the past and thinks about the past, and it was, I don't know, it was just framed very well. And I think there's a part of Jo's personality that came through in this version that it hasn't in the past, where she does very much cling to what used to be. And that's what ends up bringing her success. But it was very well done, and I really liked that. If I keep looking down, it's because I have notes down here, because I want to make sure I talk about everything that I'm going to talk about. Another random thing that I just liked that I thought I'd mention is that the family dynamic in this movie was just so palpable, and I thought they did a really good job of just kind of displaying a very realistic family. I loved that. Also, I feel like they did a good job of making Beth someone who was more of a well-rounded character in this film. They definitely showed her being frustrated, and showed her being a little bit more than just kind of the innocent sister who is shy and like follows whatever Jo does, and I think they gave her a little bit more strength in this film, which I really, really enjoyed. Oh, another thing about the way that the film was structured. The way the film was structured was very exciting because it made the people who were familiar with the story still surprised when twists and turns happened, because you didn't know exactly when in the film they would end up happening. I really loved that, and it kind of made me feel like I was watching it for the first time, or experiencing the story for the first time. So the only two things that I really wasn't a fan of, again, and I think this is an opinion thing, so please let me know if you disagree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. But the only things I didn't love is that I think that Florence Pugh looked a little too old when Amy was younger, and it was kind of weird. I felt like she almost looked older with the bangs. That might just be my opinion, but she did a very good job acting wise. She was like fantastic. I'm not even saying like any of that. I just think that might have been more of like a costuming. I don't really know. I was not sold on her when she was young. I was kind of like, this is a little weird, but you know, that works for me. The other thing, this is again a very specific point, but I would have liked to see a little bit of more of like Jo and Amy and their dynamic before Amy decides to burn Jo's manuscript, because it felt like this moment, and me and my friend who I saw this with discussed this, it felt that that moment was just very random and not grounded in something. She just randomly got very mad and, you know, acted on it. And it hadn't been established earlier in the movie that she's someone who gets mad easily. It just felt a little weird and didn't flow great for me, but it was fine. Other than that though, I loved it. Every actor was great. I have no complaints. It was amazing. All right, so for me, Little Women gets 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. It was great. Cheers to that, folks. I'm just gonna... All right. Thank you for tuning in today to Teacups and Toadstools. I really want to hear what you guys thought of the film and other opinions maybe about some things I didn't discuss here. And just let me know what you thought of it. And if you didn't like it, I'd love to hear why you didn't, because I'm very open to other people's opinions about that. Subscribe to my channel and like this video and comment below. Let me know. Let's have a conversation, and I will see you soon. Bye! Have this random thing that I've noticed, that mugs are meant to be held this way. I'm right-handed, so they're held in my right hand this way, and that way the fun part is right here so that I can look at them, but if I want to show them to you, I have to hold them this way, so every video I'm just holding my cup in an uncomfortable position.